Remember when R&B wasn't just love songs and heartbreak? Back in the 50s and 60s, rhythm and blues was raw, wild, and absolutely fearless. And buried inside all that soul and swagger were some of the funniest, strangest, most outrageous joke songs ever committed to vinyl. Songs that radio stations refused to play, songs that parents called dangerous, and teenagers called the greatest thing they'd ever heard. Today, we're counting down 10 R&B joke songs that defied every expectation and became global hits. Some of these stories will shock you, some will make you laugh, and all of them are 100% real. Number 10, Tutti Frutti, Little Richard, 1955. It's September 1955 in a recording studio in New Orleans. Little Richard, born Richard Wayne Penniman, has been struggling through a long, unproductive session for Specialty Records. Nothing is clicking. So during a lunch break, he walks to the piano and starts hammering out a song he'd been performing in black nightclubs for years. One he originally wrote while working as a dishwasher at a Greyhound bus station in Macon, Georgia. He once told Rolling Stone, "I couldn't talk back to my boss man." He kept bringing back all these pots for me to wash. So one day I just yelled, "Oh, wop, bop, a lup, bop, a wop, bum, boom. Take 'em out." That's what it meant. But the original version of that song was absolutely filthy. The lyrics were not about fruit. The original chorus, Tutti Frutti. Number 9, Say Man, Bo Diddley, 1959. Bo Diddley didn't just play music, he performed a character. Born Ellis Otha Bates in Macomb, Mississippi,
I'm strong enough. I might hurt your feelings. My feelings already hurt by being.
He grew up in Chicago and built one of the most original sounds in rock and roll. A trembling, hypnotic beat rooted in African rhythms and nursery rhymes.
Yeah. And we went a little further. You want to hear the rest of it?
But his biggest pop hit wasn't a love song or a guitar showcase. It was a verbal fist fight.
You know what happened? What happened? The wind blew a hand.
Say Man was recorded in 1958 and released in 1959 on Checker Records. It was a back-and-forth battle of insults between Bo Diddley and his percussionist, Jerome Green.
Why you so ugly tell us stuff that brought you in the world ought to be arrested?
Both trading increasingly ridiculous put-downs, rooted in the black American verbal tradition called the dozens.
Hey, since you told me about my girl, I'm going to tell you about yours.
At one point, Green delivers the line still quoted today. "You got the nerve to call somebody ugly. Why, you so ugly. The stork that brought you into the world ought to be arrested." The crowd loved it. Radio stations played it.
I'm like, the wind blew a hand in the street.
Say Man reached number 20 on the Billboard Hot 100, Bo Diddley's biggest pop crossover hit of his entire career, and number 3 on the R&B chart.
South America. You don't look like no South America to me. I'm still.
Think about that. The man who invented one of the most copied guitar rhythms in history, who influenced the Beatles, the Rolling Stones, and Buddy Holly. His biggest pop hit was a comedy record.
What did you say? I said you was ruined, that's all.
Music historians now point to Say Man as a direct ancestor of rap music. The insult structure, the verbal rhythm, the call and response, it's all there, 15 years before hip-hop had a name.
Oh, look here. What's that?
Bo Diddley was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987. He died in 2008. But Say Man lives on as proof that the dozens could sell records.
Listen, 90% of you watching right now aren't subscribed yet. If these stories are blowing your mind, imagine what you're missing. Hit subscribe, turn on that bell, and join the 200,000 R&B fans who never miss a Groove Lens upload.
Number 8, I Put a Spell on You. Screamin' J. Hawkins, 1956. Jealousy, Screamin' J. Hawkins was born in Cleveland, Ohio in 1929. He studied classical piano as a child, had ambitions of being an opera singer, and was a trained boxer. In short, he was not who you'd expect to record one of the most terrifying records in the history of R&B.
I put a spell on you.
In September 1956, Hawkins went into the studio at OK Records to cut a new version of a blues ballad he'd written. But producer Arnold Maxson thought the band was playing it too safe. So Maxson ordered in crates of beer and fried chicken, announced this was no longer a recording session, it was a party, and told everyone to cut loose. By the time they were drunk enough, the recording began. Hawkins himself admitted years later, "I don't even remember making the record."
No running around.
What came out of that session was not a love song. He wailed, moaned, growled, and howled sounds that radio programmers called orgiastic and cannibalistic. The song was immediately banned and reportedly sold over 1 million copies anyway.
If you don't want me, I said I'm young.
DJ Alan Freed then offered Hawkins $300 to emerge from a coffin on stage. Hawkins initially refused, reportedly saying, "No black dude gets in a coffin alive. They don't expect to get out."
Oh, right now.
But eventually, he relented, and from that moment, a monster was born.
Right now. I put a spell on you.
He began appearing in flaming coffins, wearing leopard skin capes, carrying a smoking skull on a stick he named Henry, and setting off fireworks. Historians now call him the first shock rock performer, predating Alice Cooper, Kiss. Number 7, Yakety Yak, The Coasters, 1958.
Don't talk.
By 1958, Jerry Lieber and Mike Stoller had already written Hound Dog and Jailhouse Rock for Elvis Presley. But their greatest gift to American music wasn't a ballad or a heartbreaker. It was a 3-minute comedy sketch disguised as a song, and it hit number 1 on both the pop and R&B charts simultaneously. The story of how Yakety Yak was born is almost too perfect. Lieber and Stoller were working in their New York office when Stoller started fooling around at the piano. And from the kitchen, Lieber shouted, not as a creative exercise, but as a random thought, Take out the papers and the trash." They looked at each other, and within minutes, they had their song.
Yakety yak.
Don't talk back.
Yakety yak, yakety yak.
The Coasters were an R&B vocal group with impeccable comedic timing, and Lieber and Staller referred to their songs as playlets.
Bring in that dog and put out the cat. Yakety yak.
Don't talk.
Many theatrical scenes set to music. Yakety Yak was the ultimate playlet.
And when you're finished doing that,
A teenager gets lectured about chores. If you don't scrub that kitchen floor, you ain't gonna rock and roll no more. He fires back with Yakety Yak. And a baritone voice booms, "Don't talk back." Featuring the blazing tenor saxophone of King Curtis, the song topped both the Billboard Hot 100 and the R&B chart in the summer of 1958. The Coasters' first and only pop #1. The song resonated across racial lines because every kid understood being lectured by their parents. It was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame in 1999 and placed on the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame's list of 500 songs that shaped rock and roll. And yes, Arnold Schwarzenegger sang it in his 1988 film Twins. Don't talk back. Number 6, Charlie Brown, The Coasters, 1959. After the massive success of Yakety Yak, Jerry Lieber said he thought they could write every Coasters song in 10 minutes. He was wrong. Charlie Brown almost didn't happen. Lieber struggled for days trying to find a follow-up. Mike Staller already had a melody, a playful skip-along tune perfect for the Coasters' comedic style. But Lieber was stuck.
Everybody always picking on me.
Then, after nearly a week of agonizing, a simple name came to mind, Charlie Brown. And then, he's a clown, that Charlie Brown. This Charlie Brown has absolutely nothing to do with the Peanuts cartoon. Lieber and Staller confirmed this repeatedly. This Charlie Brown was a chronic troublemaker who smokes in the school auditorium, calls the English teacher Daddy-O, and scrawls, "Kilroy was here," on the gym wall. Every time he gets caught, bass singer Will Dub Jones delivers the line that made it immortal. "Why's everybody always picking on me?" Toward the bridge, the words, "Yeah, you," were recorded at half speed, so they played back in a high-pitched squeak, perfectly capturing a kid who'd been caught red-handed, but still couldn't believe the world was against him.
On me.
Released in January 1959, it climbed to #2 on the Billboard Hot 100, where it stayed for 3 weeks, kept out of the top spot only by Frankie Avalon's Venus. It hit #2 on the R&B chart as well, making it the Coasters' second straight top 10 hit on both charts. Over 80 cover versions were recorded within just a few years.
Everybody always picking on me.
And at their failed 1962 Decca audition, the Beatles performed the flip side, proving the Coasters were already influencing the most important band in history. The Coasters became the first vocal group inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in 1987.
He's a clown.
Number 5, Along Came Jones, The Coasters, 1959. By the spring of 1959, Lieber and Stoller had a very good problem. Every song they wrote for the Coasters became a hit. So for their next trick, they took on television westerns. In 1959, 7 of the 10 top-rated TV shows in America were westerns: Gunsmoke, Have Gun Will Travel, Wyatt Earp. The country was obsessed with cowboys and damsels in distress. Lieber and Stoller decided to skewer the whole genre. Along Came Jones told the story of a man watching a melodramatic Western serial where villain Salty Sam keeps tying heroine Sweet Sue to railroad tracks, sawmills, and dynamite fuses. And every single time, at the very last second, a slow, dim-witted cowboy named Jones shows up to save her. The song was directly inspired by the 1945 Gary Cooper comedy film of the same name, in which Cooper himself parodied his own slow-walking, slow-talking screen persona. Music historian Ken Emerson later noted that what made Along Came Jones radical wasn't just the humor. It was black voices mocking an iconic white American genre, 15 years before Mel Brooks did it in Blazing Saddles. Released in April 1959, the song peaked at number 9 on the Billboard Hot 100, the Coasters' third top 10 hit in just over a year. King Curtis rode his saxophone through every climactic moment, honking and wailing every time Salty Sam made his move. The Coasters performed it on American Bandstand in June 1959. The kids went wild, and radio stations couldn't stop playing it.
If you don't give me the deed to your ranch.
Slow walking Jones, slow talking Jones. Coming to the rescue just in time.
Slow talking Joe.
Number 4, Poison Ivy, The Coasters, 1959. The Coasters had already taken on parents, troublemaking teenagers, and television cowboys. Now, in the summer of 1959, they took on something far more dangerous: a girl. Poison Ivy was the third top 10 hit the Coasters scored in a single calendar year. It climbed to number 7 on the Billboard Hot 100 and hit number 1 on the R&B chart, where it stayed for 5 non-consecutive weeks. On the surface, Poison Ivy is a warning about a girl too dangerous to get close to. She's compared to measles, mumps, chickenpox, and whooping cough, and deemed worse than all of them because Poison Ivy Lord will make you itch. The chorus stretches the word ivy into something almost operatic, the Coasters bending the syllables until they snap. The song is also the only hit single in history to feature the words calamine lotion in the lyrics. But here's the secret the song kept for decades. In 2009, lyricist Jerry Leiber revealed in his autobiography, flat out, no ambiguity, that Poison Ivy is not about a dangerous woman. It is a metaphor for a sexually transmitted disease. Radio had no idea. Parents had no idea. Teenagers had absolutely no idea, though some suspected something was off. The Rolling Stones covered it early in their career because the song wasn't well known in the UK, which meant British bands could play it without being compared directly to the coasters. Between May 1957 and August 1959, the Coasters placed 7 records in the Billboard charts, 6 in the top 10. No other comedy act in history has matched that run. Poison Ivy was the last great one, disguising something filthy as something cheerful and getting away with it completely. Number 3, Walking the Dog, Rufus Thomas, 1963. Rufus Thomas was 46 years old when he had his first major pop hit. Let that sink in for a moment. Born in 1917 in Casey, Mississippi, Thomas had been working the Memphis entertainment scene since the 1930s as a tap dancer, vaudeville comedian, MC, and radio DJ for WDIA. He was already a Memphis legend who had helped discover B.B. King, Bobby Bland, and Johnny Ace. But the national spotlight had never found him. Then came Walking the Dog. Thomas wrote the song himself and recorded it for Stax Records in 1963, backed by the legendary Stax House Band and engineered by Tom Dowd of Atlantic Records. It was a playful novelty dance track. Thomas whistling and calling for a dog, with lyrics pulling call and response phrases from children's nursery rhymes, especially Mary Mac. It even opened with the first 14 notes of Mendelssohn's Wedding March, before immediately going sideways into something funky and ridiculous. Released in June 1963, it reached number 10 on the Billboard Hot 100 and number 5 on the R&B chart. Thomas became the first and still the only father in pop chart history to debut in the top 10 after his daughter had already appeared there. His daughter Carla Thomas had scored with Gee Whiz in 1961. The Rolling Stones covered Walking the Dog immediately for their 1964 debut album. Aerosmith covered it for their 1973 self-titled debut, the last song they recorded for that album. Mojo magazine later crowned Thomas the king of the dog songs. He continued performing into his 80s, appeared in Robert Altman's Cookie's Fortune, and performed at the 1996 Atlanta Olympics. He passed away in December 2001 at the age of 84. Still working, still funky, still one of a kind. Number 2, The Twist, Hank Ballard and the Midnighters, 1959. You know the twist. You know Chubby Checker. You know the dance. But here's what most people don't know. Hank Ballard wrote it, recorded it first, and the world gave someone else the credit. The story begins with two members of a gospel quartet called the Sensational Nightingales, who came up with a dance song too risque for church music in the late 1950s. They offered it to Hank Ballard, whose biggest hits had already included songs with titles like Work With Me, Annie, and Sexy Ways. Ballard reworked it with his guitarist Cal Green and recorded it at King Records in Cincinnati in late 1958. The label buried it as a B-side. But a local Baltimore TV DJ named Buddy Dean started playing it at teen dances. Kids went crazy. The dance spread by word of mouth. Dick Clark caught wind of it. Clark wanted to feature it on American Bandstand, but Ballard was unavailable. So Clark went to Cameo Parkway Records, a label he had a financial interest in, and found a 19-year-old impressionist named Ernest Evans. Clark's wife Barbara nicknamed the chubby young singer Chubby Checker, a play on Fats Domino. Checker's cover was so close to Ballard's original that when Ballard first heard it on the radio, he thought it was his own record. By September 1960, Checker's version hit #1. The twist became the biggest dance craze in American history. Ballard's original was re-released and reached #28 on the Hot 100 and #6 on the R&B chart. He also scored genuine top 10 hits of his own with Finger Poppin' Time and Let's Go, Let's Go, Let's Go. In 1990, Hank Ballard was inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame, finally getting the recognition that the dance craze gave everyone else but him. #1, My Ding-a-Ling, Chuck Berry, 1972. Chuck Berry wrote Johnny B. Good. He wrote Maybelline. He wrote Roll Over Beethoven and Rock and Roll Music. Between 1955 and 1964, he placed 25 songs on the Billboard charts. 6 made the top 10. He went as high as #2, but in all of that, across the greatest catalog in rock and roll history, Chuck Berry never had a #1 hit. Not once. Until February 1972, at a college arts festival in a ballroom in Coventry, England, with a joke song about a toy bell. My Ding-a-Ling was not a song Berry wrote. The melody was originally composed by New Orleans producer Dave Bartholomew in 1952, based on a 19th century folk song called Little Brown Jug. Berry had been playing it live for years. On February 3rd, 1972, at the Lanchester Arts Festival, on a bill also featuring Slade, Billy Preston, and Pink Floyd. Berry took the stage an hour and a half late. Pink Floyd, who were headlining, were reportedly furious. But once Berry started playing My Ding-a-Ling, none of that mattered. He divided the audience. Women sang My, men sang ding-a-ling, and he conducted them like an orchestra. The live version ran 11 minutes. Edited down to 4 for the single, it hit #1 on the Billboard Hot 100 on October 21st, 1972, knocking Michael Jackson's Ben from the top spot. It also reached #1 in the United Kingdom. Some stations refused to play it. Critics were brutal. One called it a fourth-grade wee-wee joke. When Rolling Stone asked Berry about the song in 2010, he said simply, "Give people what they want." The irony is undeniable. The man who invented the template for rock and roll guitar had his only #1 hit with a bawdy novelty song he didn't even write. But Chuck Berry, at 65 years old in a ballroom in England, was still the coolest man in the room.